Greetings all, and welcome to Everything Borrowed, where conversations are cultivated between myself and some of the greatest minds in a variety of industries. This episode is presented to you by Blake's Hard Cider, a grower and maker of eccentric and uncompromised beverages on a third-generation family-owned farm and orchard. Blake's offers a line of all-natural, gluten-free hard ciders that express the fruits of our labor without all the extra sugar and artificial additives. Locate our award-winning and freshly canned products at blakeshardcider.com. You must be at least 21 to enjoy the fruits of our labor mindfully. Today, we're connecting with the well-rounded man of business and entrepreneurship, former NFL athlete, Garry Gilliam. Garry breaks any stereotype you may have of a professional athlete and is a self-proclaimed nerd working hard to create an eco-village in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. This man is not only brilliant and surprising, but he's doing real work to end systemic oppression through his innovative nonprofit. All right, thanks so much for coming on, man. How are you? I was going to wear my Michigan State gear. I see you're in your Penn State attire.
I'm doing very, very well. Thanks for having me.
Where did you start? And, we'll get into the business stuff later, but just, a little bit about you.
Well, I'll start at the very beginning. One day, my mom and dad, no, I'm joking. I was born and raised in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That is the capital of Pennsylvania. It's a small city, about 50,000 people. Not much going on there, not many resources, a lot of individuals living below the poverty line, and I was one of them. And my family was a family that was below the poverty line. My mom was a single mother. Mm-hmm. Dad, was there in the picture, but not really in the picture, so kind of one of those classic Black American dad stories. But all that actually qualified me to go to a private boarding school by the name of Milton Hershey School. And Milton Hershey School was actually founded by Milton Hershey, the great chocolatier, Hershey Chocolate. Yeah. And him and his wife founded that school back in 1909. They couldn't have kids, still wanted to give back and still, be involved in kids' lives. So they founded this school called the Hershey Industrial School for Boys. It was for just little white orphan boys in 1909. Then through the 60s, they admitted Black males. Through the 70s and 80s, females were admitted. And by the times that I went in the late 90s, it was no longer just for orphans, but families below the poverty line, single parent homes, foster kids, orphans, the like. So that was one aspect of it. In order for you to actually get accepted to the school, they actually put you through a pretty intense cognitive test. They want to see if you had the capacity to stick with their curriculum. They're looking for kind of the diamonds in the rough.
Right.
So it's a completely cost-free school though. Which is amazing because you live on campus in mansions. They're the most beautiful houses ever.
Right.
And, you live with 10 to 12 kids. You have a set of house parents who have an apartment attached to your house, and they wake you up in the morning, make sure you're doing your chores and cook your breakfast and what have you. They act as your parents. But you live on campus, and
so it's like college for kids.
Yeah, exactly.
The way, right? Yeah.
And it's tough though. I went when I was 8 years old. And I can imagine when some people go to college, that's their first time of kind of, leaving home and going away from their parents. And they have an emotional, thing that comes up. But when you're 8, it's even more. And sure. I remember going, I actually didn't even know I was going to the school. My mom, we had went a couple weeks earlier. I remember going to the clothing center to get fitted for, we had coordinated clothing of polos and khakis that we had to wear. So they provided all your clothing as well. So I remember going there and getting fit for clothing. And to me, I thought, oh, this is cool. I'm gonna be at a summer camp. That's, we got some clothes that they're giving us. Oh, that's cool. So I remember we pulled up to my student home. Mom was like, hey, Junior, go play on the swings. I'm gonna go in here and sign some paperwork and I'll be back out and we can go home. And I was like, all right, cool. So mom goes in. A little bit of time goes by. She comes back out, gets in the car. So I hop off the swing, go down, get in the car, or go to get in the car. And mom's like, no, keep playing. I got to go around the corner. I got some more paperwork that I have to sign. So I was like, all right, yeah, what? I didn't have any reason to think otherwise. All right, well, mom will be back. I'm gonna keep playing. So she leaves and it gets darker and darker and darker. And then my house father,
dude, she Irish goodbye you. She,
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So my house parent comes out, who I didn't know was my house parent at the time, and he's like, "Hey, Garry, it's time for you to come in and shower and get ready for bed." And all I heard from some dude that I had no idea who he was shower in bed. So I was like, I'm out. I'm gone. So I hopped off the swing and started chucking it to her where mom said she was going to be at, right? So he's like, no, like, this is like your mom signed you to be here. Like, you'll be living here now, and like trying to like convince me of what's going on. And me, like, I was like, nah, I'm out. I'm like looking up at the stars, trying to figure out where the North Star is at so I can
trying to make it back to Harrisburg. Yeah.
Like, I'm out. I'm gone. So he eventually convinced me and showed me, like, look, this is where you're going to be at. This is where school is. This is your home now. You can still talk to your mom and see your mom on the weekends. That's it. But so it was a rough transition. Like I said, crying every night, missing mom, missing my family, and which ended up actually driving me to get involved in a bunch of the things that the school had to offer. Visual and performing arts, so like dance, ballet, jazz, tap, learning to play piano, guitar, bass violin, a plethora of different sports to play, allowed me to really distract myself and create kind of a well-rounded young kid. And they provided the opportunity.
Yeah, if you don't mind me saying, just in the 7 minutes of talking to you, I mean, you're extremely articulate and well-read, and I mean, I'm sure the school and getting into all the dimensional kind of parts of school, not just the math and science, but the creativity, the art, those softer skills, I think, obviously are, shown up and have served you well at the school. So it seems. So
well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course, man. So you kind of got into extracurriculars, and then obviously I imagine football played a part in that as well.
Yeah,
you made it to the highest level of it for a while.
Yeah. Well, actually, football was one of the last sports that I played.
Right.
I had done soccer, ice hockey, swimming and diving, obviously football, basketball, track, baseball.
Right.
But the school didn't offer football until high school. So I didn't want to play flag football because I was just like, I'm not. If I'm gonna play football, I'm gonna play football, right?
Yeah, right.
So I didn't play until 9th grade, and did very well. I, as anticipated, like, it wasn't like I didn't think I was a good football player or something. I was big, athletic. I was actually our grade's quarterback, which a lot of people don't know this. I was our quarterback. And
were you like as big as you were in the NFL? Like six? I mean, what are you, 6'5", 6'6"?
I'm 6'6", 300 pounds. As a freshman in high school, though, I was 6'4", 200 pounds.
Okay, so just a small guy.
But so our Coach Smith, I remember he was like, hey, anybody that's going to be a quarterback and want to try out for quarterback, come over here. And I took a step over there. Everybody already knew, like, oh, G's our starting quarterback. Like, that's who we play quarterback with at recess and playground. Or, he's got an arm, he's got accuracy. He's like, the leader of our offense.
Yeah.
I walked over there and Coach Smith was like, what are you doing? He's like, get out of here. He's like, you're a tight end. I don't know what you think you're doing. I was like, what? Tight end? I was like, no, I'm our quarterback. And he was like, because he was a tight end, also went to Milton Hershey school. He was like, trust me, you're not a quarterback. You're going to be a tight end. At least for me, you're going to be a tight end. So anyway, so that ended up being tight end, defensive end, played, varsity once I got to 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. And I remember 10th grade, my football coach came up to me after the season and he was like, hey, Gary, he's like, you got a good body, you're athletic. You're really pretty good at football. He's like, I think you might have an opportunity if you want to play at the next level. He's like, I think you could possibly earn a scholarship to play at, in college. And he was like, do you want to play Division 1, 2, 3? Is there any conferences that you want to play for? And me, like, I'm a nerd trapped in an athlete's body.
Yeah.
I've always been that way. Like, I had no idea what a conference was, like Big Ten, like Big East. I didn't know what teams were in what conference or what Division 1, 2, 3 meant, like nothing. And he was like, all right, well, I'm going to give you homework. I'm going to have you start studying the conferences, doing some research on it, because this is something, you have an opportunity here. I want to make sure you capitalize on it the best way you can. So I started doing research and kind of putting together what my checklist would be for a university that I'd like to go to, right? So I boiled it down like, all right, well, I want to make sure I'm going somewhere where my degree really means something, right? I want to make sure that I'm not going to a university where if I do play football there, the football players just getting degrees that are kind of handed to them, or like, you know what I'm saying? I wanted, like, I got a degree from Penn State. Oh, okay, you earned that.
Right.
That was one. Two, I wanted to make sure that the program itself, I had an opportunity to make it to the next level, right? I had interest from Princeton, Harvard, Yale, partial scholarships from those universities, but I didn't necessarily thought that I had the best chance of making it to the NFL to go that.
Right. Did you have the grades to get into those Ivy League schools though?
Oh yeah.
Oh hell yeah! All right.
Mom was always like, she's like, I could care less how good you are in sports. Show me how good you are in the classroom.
Yeah,
right? That was Mom's doing, and then Milton Hershey really compounded that. It was really expected of you. If you were a top athlete, you were expected to be a top scholar. So, like I said, had interest from schools like Princeton and Harvard and Yale. Then we had interest from schools like Ohio State and Michigan State. And we had interest from schools like Stanford and UCLA, right? It's like, all right, well, these schools, a lot of them check certain things. So it's like, all right, well, where am I going to go, right? So, well, Penn State was only an hour and a half away. Joe Paterno was very adamant about the graduation rate of his athletes, right? I think it's like 96 or 97 when he was there. So that means not only are you going there, but like he expects you to graduate. Right. And the university understands that too. So they're not just going to give you a pass. Like they know that they're checking classes every day. You got to be above a certain grade point level. Like there's a lot of history of great players coming out of here with great degrees. So I was like, all right, cool. I like that school. And they sent a bunch of people to the league. Penn State seems like a good spot to go, right?
Right.
So they had me come to a football camp. And I remember Coach Larry Johnson, and he was a defensive line coach, the assistant head coach, I believe, at the time. And he was like, "Hey, I want you to come to a football camp." And I, he made sure I was the one that was in the front of all the drills, that was doing the demonstrations. Like he wanted to see if I had the capacity to really compete at that level.
Right.
And I handled business, right? I just went out there and did what I did. And some of the stuff with defensive end, they also saw that I was a tight end. So the tight end coach came over and pulled me for a couple drills, had me run some routes. And, he's like, all right. End of the camp, they called me over to the tent and they're like, we want to provide you with a full scholarship. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. That's dope. Appreciate it. We literally just throw like small fish, big pond.
Right.
Just no idea what was going on. And luckily redshirted that first year. So got a chance to really bulk up, got a chance to kind of learn the game, got a chance to get acclimated
to college life, being on your own again, in a new way with all the temptations that come with college and whatnot,
Right. Which actually, Penn's massive party school, temptation all around. But the private boarding school that I went to growing up really prepared me for success, I'd say, especially as a freshman football player.
What'd you decide to study when you enrolled? And it probably all plays into kind of where you ended up after football, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I actually triple majored in business development, advertising, and psychology. So yes, to all the things you said.
Okay, all right. Well, okay, so you didn't have enough, like, doing the football thing, working out at 5 a.m. You just, triple majored it too. So, okay.
Well, I figured, shoot, they're paying for it.
Yeah, right. Hey, smart.
Might as well get these pieces of paper, right? Triple majored, finished my degrees. It was at a very tough time, which actually kind of helped me kind of finish my degrees. One, I was going through a pretty major injury. My sophomore year, I tore my ACL, my MCL, my part of my patella, my meniscus, had a bunch of bone bruises because of the way that my knee bent.
Shit, so you had the whole the career ending stuff. I mean, that's yeah.
Yep. Then to make it worse, right? All those injuries were supposed to just be 2 surgeries, one for the ACL, one for everything else. In between those 2 surgeries, I got a staph infection in my bone marrow.
Shit.
If you know anything about that, that's pretty,
I mean, that's something to play with, man. That's crazy. So this was your sophomore year? You said
sophomore year, redshirt freshman year.
Oh shit. Okay.
So due to that injury and the complications of that injury with the infection, I actually ended up being out for 2 years. So I missed out on half of my college career.
I don't play. That's why you got the third. That's how you got the third degree. You had some extra time there. There you go.
I redshirted, so I had 5 years, and then I actually qualified for a 6th year too.
Okay.
Never used the 6th year though.
Okay. Got
So
done.
I finished my 3 within my 4.5, 5 years.
Hey, I barely finished 1 and 4, so you're beating me, dude. And I wasn't playing sports, so
I was already going to be there for summer, for our summer workouts and stuff. So might as well stack on the classes. Like I don't mind. I love learning, so I'm not gonna like just be out here in college partying. Y'all are paying for these classes. Oh, I'm gonna get them. Let's go.
Right. How do you feel like your commitment to education the whole time has kind of played into, all your different endeavors? I mean, obviously, some people in the athletic realm, put a lot of value on it. Some people don't. It's more all the physical athletic, but it seems like you've always, worked your mind as much as your body. And, when you're kind of in college and you get into the NFL, what, how'd that play a difference in how you kind of, approach the game later we'll get into approach business, but, just curious how that played a part, or are there more scholars that we don't know about that are also, NFL, elite athletes?
For me, I'd say the foundation was like I said, with mom.
Yeah.
I was always a big kid, always in the 99th percentile for height and weight. So being an athlete from a cultural standpoint was kind of expected, right? As a young black kid, you're big, you'll probably be an athlete. So that was kind of a given. But mom, like I said, she was like, I don't care about that. She already knew. She's seen plenty of athletes that came out of Harrisburg. She actually knew Ricky Waters and saw him have a great career. And then what happens afterwards, right?
Right.
Not so much about having a plan B or having something to fall back on. It's about being great in both.
Right.
I expect you to be great in sports. Now show me you're great in the classroom consistently. Be a champion there too, right? So that was installed with mom, and then it was nurtured at the school that I went to. Like I said, it's not a public school, it's a private school, and it was expected for us to be great in not just our athletics, but in our extracurricular activities, whether it be visual performing arts or playing an instrument, obviously school, so curricular activities. It was expected, and if you didn't have the right grades, then you weren't playing sports.
Sure.
It was that, and they had the right to do that because it was a private school. So it was like, all right, well, then it got compounded even more going to college. Joe Paterno called it the grand experiment, and it was really about not only can I show you how these players can be great athletes and work together, but I'm going to show you how great they are in an academic sense and our graduation rates and what we're doing there. So it was something that he prided himself on. They checked classes. It was something that everybody like made it very like you're academic all Big Ten or academic all American. Like it was something that we all strive to get. And they brought players in that had the same mindset. So the people around us thought the same way too. So all those different environments compounding the not just being an athlete, but being a scholar, and not just the base level one, but really, really trying to be the best at them. It just really became my lifestyle and kind of who I was. So then when I got into the NFL, it was never like, all right, I'm only going to be focusing on the NFL. That was then a time for me to then find my other interests, right? These points of pain, these other things that I've studied, whatever I'm looking at, like, let's take some of this energy that I got and direct it toward entrepreneurial things. It doesn't have to be I don't have to wait till football's done.
Right. So were you kind of working two parallel paths while you were in the NFL? I mean, you're kind of, honing your entrepreneurial spirit and thinking and kind of your ideation of these things while, trying to perform at the highest level. I mean, were you, or was it all just in the back of the mind waiting till football, you hang up the cleats and then ready for the next thing and preparing for the next thing?
The football season's only 3 months?
Yeah. Right.
You got a lot of other time throughout the year, and you're going to work out 1 time, 2 times, maybe 3 times a day. That'll take up 3, 4, 5 hours out of the day. Well, you got a lot of other time to be doing some things. So instead of just sitting there, playing Call of Duty or playing Madden, I was the one researching things and writing business plans. I had a business degree, so I had already done, research case studies and had an eye for finding points of pain and how to solve them. So just magnify that now. Not only can you find these things, put together a plan to solve them, but now you've got money to act on them.
Sure. Right.
So now I was like, all right, let me pinpoint some big points of pain, right? I'm not a small-minded kind of guy. I'm a holistic thinker. I see a lot of things are connected, so I see there's a point of pain in business development, right? And specifically coming from Milton Hershey school, right? We all get trained in a bunch of different trades. We oftentimes go off to college to study more in that trade. But then when we come back home to Harrisburg, Philly, wherever we're from, there's no environment for us to work together to actually create a business.
Sure.
So what's the point of paying there? There needs to be a space for that, a co-working space or a maker space.
Right.
All right. Well, there's a business plan. We can write that out. Who we're going to have there, what the cost per hot desk, a one person, two person office is. You know, what's that look like? How can we make it profitable? Right. Just so happens WeWork's coming out around the same time. Cool. They got the same idea. Dope. That's something that will be beneficial in the future. Let's watch how that goes and tweak it as we go. There's a business plan. Let's tuck that away. Then I end up being vegan.
While playing football?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So and I won't go too deep into it, but I'll kind of give you the inspiration of one of the points of pain that I've experienced personally. Eating obviously a bunch of fruits and vegetables. One major issue is that when you pick a fruit or a vegetable, within just 3 days, it loses 30% of its nutritional value. That's one issue.
I'm a farmer, dude. You're speaking my language.
You.
Yeah.
Then 2, it's got to be shipped further, so it costs more. And then 3, in order for them to try and prevent it from decaying before it gets to you, as you know, it sometimes gets picked earlier, it gets gassed or whatever it is. Yeah. Now, these plants are grown and they're perfectly constructed to protect themselves and then to provide for you. But they're first going to protect themselves. So a tree doesn't have, arms and legs to defend itself. So it puts enzymes inside what we're eating when it's not ripe. When it's ready to give it to you, it'll drop it and give it to you. But if you're not close enough and we pick it too early, there's enzymes that actually harm us and it's decaying before it gets to us, there's a lot of issues there. And being someone who eats a lot of fruits and vegetables, I think I want to solve that issue, right? So then I was like, well, shoot, there should be a grocery store. Walk in and the food's grown, let's say aeroponically. So it's in a controlled environment without soil, the light's controlled. And I'm like, I want that tomato right there.
Right.
Picked off, and that's farm to table in like 2 minutes.
Right.
Why don't we have a grocery store like that? Why don't we have farms that are locally? What's up with food localization and food security? How do we solve those issues, right? So then that leads into creating an urban farm, aeroponics, hydroponics, closed loop environment, right? And another point of pain, home ownership rates. Why do home ownership rates matter? Real estate's one of the main ways that people create generational wealth. Well, how do we get people involved in real estate? And how do we get people understanding generational wealth? Well, we first got to establish financial literacy. We got to teach people how to leverage credit to get an FHA loan, right? To do a community real estate fund or crowdfunding so that you can pull your money together to be the ones that then buy up houses, multiple doors, and get homeowners that are supposed to be in them back in them. And you have homeowner occupied rates going up. Because of that, now we get our property values going up. Our property values going up, taxes go up. Taxes go, we get more money to our school districts. Now our schools in these areas, another point of pain that are ranked very low in their school, in their state. These kids don't have the right teachers or the right books or what have you, all correlated to real estate and the property values and home ownership rates, which is correlated to financial literacy, which is really what's establishing generational wealth. So those things are connected together. Okay, so point of pain, point of pain, point of pain, point of pain. What's the last point of pain? People are riding dirt bikes. They're shooting guns. They're shooting paintball guns in our cities, riding ATVs through our streets, right?
Sure.
We need an outlet. They need zip lines, trampolines, batting cages in the city.
Places to expend energy, right? Productively.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So I've strategically explained all those points of pain to lay the foundation for the bridge when we get to it. But all those different things that I saw, those aren't things that you would see in the NFL. Sure. Those are things that I've seen growing up, experiencing life, seeing the way that my family interacted with things, seeing those around me, what they needed, seeing, right? And then seeing, okay, well, let's sit back. Let's see what the need is, see how we can solve that need, right? This point of pain and solving it, product, good, service. Let's create a model that solves all those different points of pain.
Right. And you're speaking to something that I think, one of the things that I've always, struggled with is, in this like very consumer driven environment, we've kind of broken down a lot of things you talk about, or one of the points of pain I see is that the sense of community, in our communities has really degraded to a point where, you don't know your neighbor like you should. You don't need your neighbor like you should. And everything's become so transactional. So, the way in which you're speaking about, and why I was so interested to have you on, the way in which you're speaking about this very holistic, 360-degree ecosystem, it's really what brings people, connecting back to people and to what they're eating and what they're, why do we have housing with fences? Why don't we have like community spaces that integrate with one another and create, commonality and common space, as opposed to, this is mine and this is theirs, and have this boxed out version of living. And I feel like that's, as all the progress that we've made over the last 100 years, one of the things that we've really moved away from is that sense of community, because we used to rely on the guy next door to get our milk from, or get our eggs from, or or get our fruit from. You used to know the farmer's name. Now you're so far, from even knowing where what country your food came from. So, everything about the points of pain, and one of the things that I've always said is, kind of at the broken parts are where the light comes through. So, a good philosophy, I think, in business and just in being kind of a conscious creator in kind of taking economics and entrepreneurship to the heart level, as opposed to just the mind level, is to really kind of identify not only the pain that you grew up in, but the pain that you see, in all these other different areas. So it's interesting that you were able to kind of, throughout your life, just kind of, piece all these individual points of pain together. And what I think ultimately is coming to, hopefully is a sustainable model for others to borrow, which is the bridge, which is, I'm assuming that's kind of what it all culminated in, to a degree, as you kind of work through all that. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit, because I'm interested, people make a lot of money in professional sports. Obviously it's earned. Is there any sort of, entrepreneurial spirit ingrained and taught to the athletes there, or are they just getting a bunch of money? And if you make good decisions, you're making good decisions. And if you don't, you don't. Where did the entrepreneurial kind of spirit and thinking and business sense, where'd that come in as it relates to you get your first NFL contract and you get some money for the first time? What was that like? And what's the sense in the league, when people are getting these contracts? Are they all like you, or what?
Well, it's well known within the league that NFL stands for not for long.
I never heard that. That's a good one.
Your career is not going to last very long. The average NFL career is only 2.5 years.
That's insane.
So knowing that, then pairing that with a crazy stat that 88% of NFL players are bankrupt within just 2 years of being done.
So you say 88%?
88%.
That's crazy.
So pretty much 90%. So now, because you met me, every other NFL player you meet is going to be bankrupt, because I'm not.
Yeah, right.
So knowing those things going in, it's like, okay, well, why? You hear the horror stories of athletes making bad investments, or their friends or family taking advantage of them, and those things are all real, right? Like,
right.
You make it to the league, we made it to the league. Like, the fam is looking for handouts, the friends are looking for handouts. Hey,
right.
I was throwing the ball with you in the backyard when you were 7. Like, where's my car? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are real conversations that people had. And a lot of times guys, they can't say no. And what happens is, while you're within the football season and you're getting those fat checks during those 16 weeks, it looks like you got a lot of money coming in, right?
Right.
First year, you get a nice signing bonus. You get your good year in coming in. Shoot, I got to buy a car. I got to make sure I got a house, make sure mom's got a house, she's got a car, right? Got to do these things. And the next thing you know, that massive contract that you thought you had, you forgot about taxes. You forgot about union dues, and you forgot about, your 401k that you want to invest in. And then next thing you know, you actually don't have money, and you don't have money coming in because you're in the off season. And, a lot of guys end up taking out credit cards to last them until the next season comes. And banks are going to give them credit cards because they got a contract that says they got, $1 million or $2 million coming in. Then those guys get over leveraged and they end up being in debt. And it's just a spiraling thing. And then you're like, okay, well, since that's so well known, why wouldn't the NFL provide education things, right? Well, they do. They provide. I remember my rookie year, every week we had meetings, and some of those meetings were about creating a budget, right? They give you the information. It's not that you're going to sit there and make sure you're going through it though, or actually doing it or implementing what
you just have too. I mean, you made it to the league, and you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, personally, I was like, all right, well, I'm not a flashy dude. Like, I don't need to buy be out popping bottles and buying chains. If I'm gonna buy a chain or a watch or something, I'm gonna go get a fake one. And, and because I'm an NFL player, y'all gonna think it's real anyway. Like, what I look like wasting 30 grand on a chain to impress some chick who gonna assume it's real anyway? Because I'm good. So I already had that mindset. I can't tell you why I was such a frugal spender. Like I'm cheap. I wasn't trying to spend money on anything. I was saving money and knew that investing in real estate was important. So I was looking for real estate, and I was obviously a businessman, so investing in my own businesses and to the stock market, like I had knowledge of that. So then it was just a matter of, okay, when I got some time, sitting in a hot tub or I'm getting a massage, instead of laying there scrolling on Instagram looking for all the big booty chicks, right? Yeah. I'm gonna go follow these conscious pages or these real estate pages, and I'm gonna start educating myself so I can use this money that is a tool to get me more money. So then I can actually impact other, more and more lives, right? Cole Hatter, he has a saying. He says, make money matter. Like, everyone wants to help people at a certain point in time, but in order for you to help people, you got to make money. So make money first and then make your money matter, right? Do impact investing, things like that. So had the mindset going in. So making money, I was conscious of it, wasn't just blowing it on things. It made, fairly smart investments. And created a nice network with a lot of individuals, most athletes and entertainers who also think the same way. Mm-hmm. So those are a lot of the initial investors actually into the bridge, guys who understand, this isn't just about making money, but it's about making impact and really bringing a model to our neighborhoods. That's not just about another football camp and, trying to get Billy into the NFL. It's about really going back and talking about real estate, business, credit, agriculture, and being the ones that really be the faces that change our culture. As a young Black boy, you're already told, like, all right, the only way you're getting out of the hood is being an athlete, a rapper, or selling drugs. Selling drugs, you're either going to be dead or locked up. Most rappers don't really got that much money, and I already told you, athletes, most of them are bankrupt within a few years of playing anyway. So let's not keep pitching those things. If there's a great athlete, by all means, coach him up, get him there. There's a rapper, get him in the studio. If there's a drug tell him to stop selling drugs and tell him to sell some candy or some water or something. Flip and then show him how to invest in the stock market because he's got the mind, business mind, So let's go back and talk about those things. We can create way more millionaires that way than we can in athletics and rapping, right? This is for everybody. Everybody can invest in the stock market. We got to go teach them about finding the Bollinger Band and investing in the bottom of it as it goes to the top and selling as the RSI gets high. Right. Foreign languages to people, but it's very simple when broken down to an individual. And now they can create generational wealth, which establishes systematic empowerment, which we'll get to that when we talk about the bridge.
Well, let's talk about the bridge because honestly, everything that you're saying is I feel like if anyone who I've talked to who's mapped out so many of the points of pain of not just the Black community and inner city communities, but all of us. I mean, I know how many friends in the rural community that I come from that is just completely financially illiterate and takes out credit cards and doesn't understand what debt really does and doesn't understand what investing in yourself in the form of education or sound investment beyond the nice fancy truck that you have or the nice four-wheeler that you have or dirt bike that you have. There's smarter investments, there's different ways. And coming up in a family business, I've definitely understood my the fact that I've been studied to a degree by my father and my grandpa on some of these principles that have served our family pretty well in kind of establishing a mindset a little bit around financial, responsibility, and there's a level of, humility that comes with that. Is, you're not buying the flashiest thing in the room. You're buying the smart thing and the thing that's going to take care of your grandkids and your kids, as opposed to, the impressing the chick, at the club, type thing. So let's jump into the bridge a little bit, because, it seems like almost too good to be true. So I want to get into what the hurdles are going to be, and what might be some of those stumbling blocks in trying to, execute this vision, because it's a beautiful one.
Yeah. So Penn State, went to the NFL, played for the Seahawks and the Niners. I was in the league for 5 years. I don't know. I might go back next year. We'll see. I might lock in this offseason with a lot of guys coming back after COVID.
Are you thinking?
Maybe, I'm healthy.
Yeah, I mean, you look good. You look strong. You still lifting?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. Well, since you're coming back, I wasn't going to ask you. I was going to say Seahawks or 49ers. Where's your allegiance lie? But you don't have to answer that now, because if they want you back,
whoever's paying me the most.
There you go. All right, deal. Spoken like a true businessman.
But no, so in my break from football, if you will, decided to execute on some of these business plans that I wrote up. All those different points of pain that then led to different business plans, they were kind of just sitting in my notes section, Mm-hmm. And then March 31st of 2019, Nipsey Hussle was killed. And at that point, I actually didn't know much about Nipsey, or his music, or what he was really doing.
Can I stop you right there just real fast? I didn't know about him. I've always loved rap music, and I've, Tupac, Biggie, Nas, I grew up, with that music. And I didn't listen to one Nipsey song before he died. And then afterwards, I got obsessed with his entire discography, and I've listened to every song. He was my number one artist on the Spotify wrap up this year, starting in last year. And I felt like he was speaking like I felt like Tupac or other musicians speak. Like you're speaking like, universal wisdom, like coming through, a little bit. Like I get that sense when I turn it on, and it's like you don't get that with everyone. But I got that with him for sure. So, rest in peace to Nipsey. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
No, same for me. I heard a few of his songs. I didn't know much about him. I heard his name before. He ended up passing away, so I did research and ended up listening to a lot of his music, listened to a lot of his podcasts and his interviews and what have you. And then I was like, dude, like Nipsey is like me. Mm-hmm. I didn't go to Milton Hershey school. If I would have just stayed in the hood, I would have probably got involved in gangbanging and drug dealing. But he has an entrepreneurial mind and thinks about ownership. And like, I was like, dude, like that's, I resonate with Nip. Like, that's okay. Yeah. So then, he's talking about closing on commercial properties and how to leverage this and do that in his music, as you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, like I got extremely inspired. And I was like, well, he opened a co-working space to help his hood. He was doing commercial real estate, acquiring properties and transforming them. And I was like, well, gee, like take this inspiration and execute on it. Like you've got business plans, some that are very similar to what Nip was doing. So like, what are you waiting for? So I called up my buddy Corey, who went to Milton Hershey School. And I was kind of talking to him specifically about the co-working space. And I was like, yeah, I think we need to create a co-working space in Harrisburg. I think the kids from Milton Hershey School could really use a space to really use our talents together, because we are all educated in different things. Let's pull them together. Milton Hershey kids create businesses, and let's see what happens then, right? So that was really the thing. And we were on the phone. I was like, look, we got to create a bridge from Milton Hershey to the real world. And we both stopped and we're like, that's the name of the company, The Bridge.
Bridge.
So, me with my advertising, graphic design stuff, I web design. I went on, looked up thebridge.com, saw it was available, designed a logo, designed the website, like just kind of, started doing all that fun stuff. And then it was about just locking in, right? What is it? What is each of those branches? Work, eat, live, learn, play. Like, what are they? What are the points of pain? How do we solve them? Really like going through the business plan, combing through all those things, making it so that it's digestible and that an investor would want to be involved in it. So that was just lots and lots and lots of nights listening to Nipsey, right? We listened to him, and it was crazy because as I'm listening to certain songs, what he's talking about in his raps are starting to happen within
your life.
Right?
Yeah.
So he was a huge inspiration. Definitely really just kind of kicked it into gear. Just like, if Nip can do it, G, like, bro, like, get on your horse and do it. Like, if not now, then when? And if not you, then who? Like,
Right.
let's bring together the team. Like, yeah, you may not be the most adverse in, farming or real estate or whatever else, right? But you can certainly find the team, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that figuring that out is, you kind of you set the vision, you set the goal, and I think like the entrepreneur or the guy that's making it happen, you don't have to know how to get there. You got to know where the end point is, and it's kind of your job afterwards to surround yourself with people who are helping you navigate towards that end goal. And you're just kind of being the true north, to a degree of what the vision is and where you're trying to get to, and then you got to help bring people in to help show you how to get there, because you got to bring in people who understand hydroponic agriculture, right, and people who make that a reality that can help you build that. So I have to imagine you had to bring around a very diverse group of thinkers to kind of pull off something like this.
Yeah, and we always say that we're assembling the Avengers.
Yeah, I like that.
And also creating a football team, right? So I'll keep it on the football analogy. Like, let's say for this game, I'm the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Well, I already know that there's 11 other people or 10 other people on the offense. And what we always would say within our football team, Seahawks and 49ers, is do your 1-11, right? Do your job, do your little 1 of 11, and everybody does that, then we'll be successful. And know your role, right? Okay, I'm the quarterback. I'm gonna throw the ball to this receiver, but I already know that I can't get that ball down to the receiver if I don't have a really, really good left tackle who has experience, who sees the keys, he sees the safety over top of the corner, understands they got numbers over there. I have a high alert for a corner blitz coming. If I don't have that person on a development sense, right, an architect, an engineer, a project manager, someone who's done this before, who can notify, all right, G, looks like a blitz coming. Let's get ready. We got to audible this thing out.
Right.
A young Patrick Mahomes, but I need an advanced and veteran offensive line. We want to get to the Super Bowl. We want to build all these different developments. Let's break it down. Let's go one game at a time. Let's go one play at a time. Let's surround ourselves with the best team, not just on offense, but defense too. Let's find the great middle linebacker and a team around him. Let's find a special teams unit. Let's get board members, right? Let's get the coaching staff and the advisors, right? Let's make sure we got the whole corporation set up to be successful.
Right. And so where are you at with that and that build out right now? I mean, I think you just broke ground recently, and you're kind of, first spot in Harrisburg. Obviously you have aspirations outside of there, but where are you at with the build out of the team? Who'd you bring in? What type of talent, and where's the current state at? And, what's ultimately the vision for the final build out, in the whole concept, not just the first location.
Yeah. So specific to Harrisburg, like you said, had our quasi groundbreaking. We'll actually be starting construction in spring. It's a little bit too cold to be doing it right now, and so we'll be doing some interior demolition, some light landscaping stuff, finishing up our land development plan and our construction drawings, bringing in the rest of our capital stock and what have you. But while doing that, as you know, other cities, they actually contact us about replicating our model in their city. So
I've had 2 people from Detroit talk about. I don't know if you've talked with anyone from Detroit specifically, but a few people through some of the networks that I work with, for business and for otherwise, that have kind of brought you and what you're doing up. So that has to be super exciting. And do you have the investors to scale, and do you have the right people around you to kind of maybe explore that opportunity to make this a concept that can be borrowed for that? The whole sense of the show is everything borrowed, but is there a franchisable model or a model where people can take the work that you've done to bring all these things together and package it so we can get it to more kids and to more communities in a faster light?
Yeah. So in the fruition or the foundation and the beginning stages of the bridge, we knew that what we were building wasn't just a need in Harrisburg, but it was a need in a lot of different places. So in terms of scalability, which is something in business school that we're taught as well, like not only are you going to find points of pain, create product, services, and goods, but create something that's scalable so investors want to get involved in it. So in doing so, it was all right. Well, not only are we going to find the Avengers or those that can help us with the Bridge Harrisburg, but they have to have the capacity to teach and advise other teams and other locations if need be. So our architects, our engineers, our sustainability consultants, they all have their own individual entities that they work through, but they're also, founding members of the bridge itself, which is a model that then gets replicated.
Right. So talking about that model, you talked a little bit about, the build and fill business model, kind of in the layout of the bridge, and you're obviously, trying to bridge the gap between undeveloped and successful communities. But, for the uninitiated, for someone like me who, is just learning, about kind of sustainable development and some of that. So, what is the build and fill business model? What are the, what is the totality of the build out? I mean, obviously it's housing and it's shopping and it's co-working space, but, dive into a little bit of the nitty gritty on kind of how, what Harrisburg is going to, fully look like when it's all said and done, and who's buying the spot and who's filling the spot.
Yeah. So public-private partnership. These type of projects, and not just in financing does it get complicated, but also in the programs that you want to offer. If you're going to really do something that's holistic to provide opportunities and an environment for the community to really have an impact, you got to bring in a bunch of different stakeholders. So obviously with what we're doing and how we're doing it and who we're targeting, that opens up a lot of public funding. So different grants. A lot of those grants have actually increased in their funds, or new grants were created through the last year, and what's going on with COVID and Mr.
Right.
George Floyd, the racial tension, dedicating funds toward the same areas that we're targeting. A lot of the times these funds come up, but they're always, there was never a plan or a project that we could put the money into. Now we had developed this before that time, so then the two just kind of paired. Now we're getting reached out to by developers, municipalities, mayors, funds, social impact investors that are like, hey, look, we want to,
right,
you're doing right.
Yeah.
So
you ever feel like the universe kind of works on a little bit of a timing deal? Like you kind of built it, you had it set up, and now it's kind of, it knows you're out there and it's kind of reaching out to you a little bit.
I related to not to get like super religious or anything, but like the story of Noah. Most people know that story. Noah's Ark. The Great Flood is, I guess, a universal flood story. I kind of think of it like that. Like over a year ago, when we really started putting this all together and explaining it to the friends and family and other people, they're like that's a task now. Like I don't really know why you're doing it, but like it sounds cool. Like good luck. You guys seem pretty passionate about it, right? And then so essentially kind of like Noah's Ark. Like why you building that ark? We building an ark. It's sunny out. It's hot. Like we're in the middle of a drought. What are you building this ark for? Then as time goes on, right, and COVID happens and all the riots and protests start to kick up and legislation and elections and all that stuff, right? This is a flood, right? There's a lot of rain. We're going through 4 different crises at the same time. We have a pandemic, we have a racial crisis, we have an environmental crisis, and we've got a financial crisis. At the same, that's a flood.
And that's a flood, man. That's a flood.
That a lot of those things, right? Those points of pains have already been things that are constructed and formulated as things we're solving within our business, right? So then people are like, well, we need something that can solve all these things and something that's holistic and something that's self-sustaining and can make money and provides this. And then it's like,
right, we're right here, man.
So then the scalability of it increases even more. So then it's like, all right, we're not just a development company. We're a consultant company too, right? So we created, there's 5 branches: work, eat, live, learn, play. There's a hidden 6th branch, replicate, which is our consulting firm called The Branch, right? So then you can actually hire us through The Branch for us to consult for master planning, architectural designs. That also is how you get access to the licensing of a bridge location, right? All those things is pumped through our consulting firm, so we can replicate and spread the seed, right? The branch, right? We want to drop more fruit in other areas. So
I appreciate that metaphor, by the way. I like that. That's great, man. That's it feels like, I keep going back to this thing and I forget who said it. It was in some economics book that I was supposed to read in college, but it was like it was kind of an economist at the beginning of the 19th century, and was like, the businesses of today will be built with the hands, businesses of the future will be built with the mind, and the businesses of the future are going to be built with the heart. And I feel like with technology and connection, we've kind of been in the mind kind of stage of things, and, with just very cerebral and very connected. But, I feel like kind of what you're doing is kind of the onboarding onto, doing business from the heart a little bit, where obviously we're not, we're trying to make money and we're trying to provide for our families and create generational, assets and wealth, but, it's with a little bit more of a deeper purpose that really does solve to the human condition a little bit. So I feel that that's very much in the spirit of what what you're doing. And I think there's a reason why, people are gravitating towards that, because I think it's needed. You just talked about the four crises, and we need, I always looked at entrepreneurs and business people being the great, problem solvers of a lot of our issues, because, I love government as much as the next person, but, people really do solve issues, and people with teams around them. And I feel like the entrepreneur really has an opportunity to solve a lot of those problems by making connections, and making bridges, I guess I should have used. But yeah, man, I couldn't be more excited for what you guys are doing. So, if people wanted to learn more, wanted to get more involved, how do they become part of the branch? If people in Detroit wanted to follow suit for what's going on in Harrisburg.
The Bridge Eco Village is a for-purpose real estate development company that acquires old properties like schools, malls, warehouses, and transforms them into eco villages. So to us, an eco village is a place where you can work, eat, live, learn, and play, as I explained. So the work, co-working spaces, maker spaces, farming, that's the eat branch, right? Urban agriculture, hydroponics, aeroponics in a controlled environment. Also with solar panels, water collection, geothermal, and a biowaste food digester, which really closes the waste and carbon loop. We actually then, the same companies we provide fruit and vegetables to, we bring in their scraps, convert that into nutrients as well as more energy to then really close water loop, waste loop, energy, and our carbon. So all those things getting closed through our farming aspect. So then converting these food deserts, or as we like to say, it's food apartheid, or apartheid, however they say it. Food deserts are naturally occurring, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a food desert is not something that's natural. That was by design, just like redlining, just like home ownership rates, just like school funding, all those things are by design, as well as a food desert. So we like to say we're converting these food deserts to food oases, combating the food apartheid, right? That's by design. So that's the eat branch. So work, eat, live is housing, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the real base level of food, shelter, and water, right? So that base shelter, not just affordable housing, but also luxury housing. It's important to create that village and that synergy, as you were talking about earlier. We're better in closer proximity to each other. We encourage each other. We create better things. We do a lot better, contrary to the current state of the world and us being separate, right? When we get back to the way we're supposed to be, us being in close proximity is the most successful thing that we can do. That's the live aspect. Learn is the nonprofit branch, which is actually, it supports the other four branches. Heavy lean into financial literacy, teaching people how to not just leverage their credit, but how to repair their credit if it's down. Using that credit to get an FHA loan to get multiple doors, or use those doors to cover your mortgage, to lay the foundation, as I stated before, for generational wealth. So not just talking at people, but really getting them in the programming for it. Also within the Learn branch itself, heavy lean into contractual work, and training people in jobs. So plumbing and carpentry, electrician work, right? These things that use to literally build your neighborhood. We got to get people back into those trades and train them the right way, right? With this sustainable mindset. That type of thinking is very important in development sense. So that's the Learn branch. And Learn actually supports work. You can come in for programming. Entrepreneurs can come in for incubation, acceleration, that go through our bridge programming to help set up their business plans or pitch decks. So when we bring investors in and have our pitch competitions, they know you've been through our programming, that you're a substantial business that they should invest in. We'll make sure you get to that point. So that's the Learn to work. Learn to eat is teaching people how to grow their own food, how to cook their own food. The importance of a plant-based diet, or how other foods interact with your body, how it affects your cholesterol, which affects your heart disease and your pineal gland, and like all those things and how they're connected. That education, like Learn to Eat, is very important. Learn to Live, the creation of a real estate, or excuse me, a community real estate fund, right? Raising 1,070,000 with the local community so that they can invest not just in the bridge location, but to be the ones that start to acquire some of the real estate in the surrounding area and control gentrification. So that's learn to live. Explain to learn to play is actually the correlation between your physical health and your mental health. Realizing that it's okay to have an outlet, that we've been through traumatic lives. Again, as we stated before, those outlets are very important. So then the play branch itself is converting these buildings, work, eat, live, learn, play, having the go-karts, the trampolines, the zip lines, the batting cages. Virtual reality and augmented reality are something that's very important that allows spaces to be flexible. My brother, who actually has cerebral palsy, he can't drive a car, but now he can come get into a stationary electric go-kart that kind of has a 4D experience that moves with a virtual reality helmet, and now he can now teleport to Egypt and go over the dunes, right? Or be driving through a street in Paris and we pump some smell in, now you smell a croissant or something, right?
Right.
Experience can be had for everybody. So the Bridge Eco Village, work, eat, live, learn, play, creating these fully sustainable closed loop communities that populate and create economic development, convert food deserts. They don't just create jobs, but they create those who create jobs, the right jobs. So it populates an area in a tremendous way. You can find out more about the bridge at thebridge.com. If you would like us, if you'd like to interact with some of our team, hire parts of our team, license a bridge location or any of that, you can do that through our consulting branch. If you go to thebridge.com, there's a tab that says consult. You can click there, or you can go to TB Collab, like the branch, collab.com. That'll take you to our website. Email us either through the bridge website or through the branch website. Let us know you want to talk about expansion. If you don't want to necessarily invest, or you don't have maybe the capacity to be a developer or whatever it is, you want to be part of the team, we also have a nonprofit, which is empoweratthebridge.org, which will allow you to volunteer in any local location, do volunteer work, or provide, hints and tips on, hey, there's a school in this city, maybe you should look there. There's a bunch of different ways to contact us. Best ways through the bridge. You can get to the other websites through thebridge.com.
Well, that's perfect. And I just wanted to, kind of end with this. It's such a beautiful vision, and it hits on all the right things from, an entrepreneur perspective, but to, a humanity perspective. But, what are the potential roadblocks that would stop this from scaling and being in, all 50 states and hopefully beyond? What do you see as being the big hurdle here that we got to overcome together, to make this a reality beyond just one location?
Capital is really the main thing. We've constructed a pretty nice team. We're constantly obviously adding to that team, training more individuals to expand our team so we can continue to scale this thing. But as any development, especially converting an old structure, or even if, with the ground up model that we have, it takes capital. And then even to get public grants, it takes, collateral and capital there to match some of the grants there. So the more private capital that we have, the better. And that's not obviously just for one location, but for all locations.
Sure.
And that's, whether it comes from private investors or institutions, financial funds, social impact investors, or social impact bonds, whatever it is, different legislation that gets drummed up that frees up some funds. It's just a matter of, really funneling that money into models. It doesn't even have to just be the bridge, but things like what we're doing. I'd say money is the main thing, really. And once the first one's built and people see that it is self-sustaining, not just, in its sustainable stuff, but in its financial stuff, that's really when it's already started to happen. People are just interested in the model, let alone the financial, unprecedented setting things that it's going to do. Then people really want to be involved, right? And then it replicates. You'll start to get, bigger corporations that want to be involved. Companies that are looking to do things on other planets. I'm gonna speak that into existence. Tesla, Amazon, some of those companies that are doing some big things. Like these are the type of models and companies and projects that you should be involved with, the bridge, and what we're doing, which then allows us to replicate our model into other places, other cities. And normally it's capital, and obviously those companies or any other companies can bring expertise, research, development to hone in on, what specific communities needs or the best way to provide those opportunities. But it always comes back to capital.
Yeah, well, it comes back to capital, but I know anyone investing should feel good that you're at the helm because, one of the more brighter minds that I've had the pleasure of talking to, and, truly an awesome soul, man, and really appreciate having you on and you taking an hour to spend and share your story with us. And best of luck to everything in the future, man, and we'll stay following you because, we want to see this work. So, yeah, just really appreciate it. And Blake's Hard Cider, my company, is actually in PA. So if you're out and you see anything, not only apples from Blake's in Michigan, but also hard cider and sweet cider apple juice. If you're in the stores out in PA, you'll probably see us. So keep an eye out, my man.
I will. Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Take care. Thanks for listening and laughing with us today, guys. I hope you remember that everything in life is borrowed, so make sure to love hard, work hard, stay humble, and help each other out along the way. Find and subscribe to more of Everything Borrowed episodes through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. If you really want to make our day, drop us a 5-star review so more people can find the work we're sharing. Stay up to date with weekly articles on business, life, and my interactions with amazing entrepreneurs and creators at everythingborrowedpodcast.com. EBP is produced by Chelsea Cox and Jason Brown. Edited and filmed by Nick Ferguson. Art is produced by Adam Yarbrough. Everything Borrowed is an after-hours media production. Copyright 2020.